One of the things that happens when some people decide that they want to tell their story, all the thoughts start to happen. Well, what if people know I'm talking about them? What if they're going to be angry with me? What will be the consequences of telling my story? But we don't realize that when we have the courage to tell our stories, it's going to impact someone for the better. And that's one of the main reasons why we must have the courage to tell our stories.
Sharing your story and sharing the stories of others is one of the biggest ways that you can have a ripple effect out in the world. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Welcome to Women Leaders on the Move, a Her C-Suite radio podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Benamou, and every week I bring you stories and insights from amazing leaders who are making an impact in incredible ways. Today's guest is Monica Pierre. She is a keynote speaker and motivational performer, a 3-time Suncoast Emmy Award-winning reporter and producer, and storyteller who ignites audiences through the power of character-driven monologues. She specializes in helping leaders and entrepreneurs tap into the power of their own stories. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. I cannot wait for you to hear all about it. So let's get started now. Monica, I'm so excited to welcome you to Women Leaders on the Move today. Thanks for being on the show.
I couldn't sleep last night thinking about being on the show and how exciting. It was like Christmas. Can't wait to be on the show.
Well, I have had just an amazing time of getting to know you through Thrive, and I got to be on your show, which was so special. But for our listeners, which I can't imagine that they don't know you, but they might not. So let's talk a minute about you.
First of all, so excited to be here. All kidding aside, Natalie, this is really a joy and a treat. And I was telling my husband, I said, I don't even remember when I didn't know Natalie and the folks with Thrive. That's in that condensed amount of time. That's how wonderful the experience has been. And I never assume anybody knows me. And I am just a person who has always been in love with stories. I've worked in television news, radio news. I've had talk shows and have, shows as well. I just love putting people on the air in some way or on the stage and helping them with their story. So I started off wanting to be an actress. But we were the first in our families to go to school. So I said to myself, mistakenly so, you shouldn't waste a degree. The long story short, changed my major 3 times and landed on broadcasting, on news. And I have been in it ever since. And it's just been a joy to be with people and help them tell their story. And I've always wanted to help them tell their story with dignity, whether I was covering a story that was just tragic or a shooting. I said, how do I help them? My job is not to be the center or the star of the story or the star of the newscast or the star of the news package, but to help them. So I've done a number of things like most people in media throughout the years, you get downsized, you lose your show or they do something different. So I've worked in public relations. I have a public PR boutique, very small. I've worked with political campaigns. You kind of do whatever you need to do because you're not guaranteed a longevity in this business. So that's basically me. I'm the oldest of 5 and grew up in a small rural area, sharecroppers' children in Louisiana. Moved to New Orleans 30 something years ago. Have been here ever since. Although my plan was to be here for 3 years, then move on to maybe Houston, a bigger market, and then be in Los Angeles, California, big LA. I didn't realize it would be big L, small a for Louisiana.
Well, you are a celebrity in Louisiana. So people know you and love you and appreciate all the things that you do. And I've heard from our mutual friend, Dr. Renika Briscoe, about how you can't go anywhere in New Orleans without people knowing you. So that's got to be wonderful to have touched so many people in the way that you have. And it is through storytelling. And I wanted to ask you, was there a moment in time when you realized the power of story?
Oh, this is so important. And the role that I would play or other people play in helping others tell their story. Working in television news, particularly as a general assignment reporter, so I covered it all. But I also had a segment where I helped people. And I got this call, Natalie, this woman who said, look, I'm a young mom, and me and my husband, we're just distraught because we're going to have to take our baby off of life support. But we don't have any money to bury our baby. And I'm thinking, this story has everything, right? Tugging at your heart, tears. But I said, I could tell it that way, but how could I tell the story in a way that she is making difficult decisions? She is powerful, she is strong. And how do I help her tell the story? And of course, she starts crying, but I did something that most reporters probably wouldn't do. I asked my photographer to turn the camera off, to let her just regain her dignity and her composure. And we did. And then she just said what she needed, her and her husband, what they needed, how hard this was. They just needed some help, and they would appreciate what anything anybody could give them. And Natalie, when that story aired, at the time, they used to say the phone rang off the hook. I mean, people were calling. They had more than enough to help them find a suitable site to bury that baby and have a little extra. So that's when I really realized if you help people tell their story with dignity and strength, it's far more effective than anything else that you could do.
I can only imagine for her the power that that gave her to be able to just realize that it was okay for her because it was such a difficult moment, but that she didn't have to air that in a way that that made it twice as hard because it's not easy to be crying on camera, even if you're doing it for a good cause, which was in this case trying to make ends meet.
And I thought about it because the husband said, "You do it. You do it for our baby." Like she was the one like appointed to do this. And I said, "Oh no. She has to be a strong person or told in a way that is dignified." Again, tears could have worked, but in this case, we just felt the pain for her. A young couple making this horrible decision. Even the doctor was like, oh, she's so strong. She's so strong. So he also admired what she was doing. So again, there were a lot of others. And because I always told myself, if anybody interviewed my father, who at the time when he was alive could not read nor write, the world says he wasn't a very educated man, but I would want someone to treat him with dignity and help him tell whatever story it would be and to treat him with kindness. So that's been the way I've approached it. Now, am I the biggest thing in the world? I don't know, but that's the way I approach story. Even when I work with others to help them tell their story and they are reluctant, they don't want to be vulnerable, they don't want to be expose themselves, they don't want to be open. I said the power is in the strength of you being who you are and stepping on that stage and knowing that it will be okay if you be yourself and you give as much as you get with the story.
First of all, I want to say congratulations because you just hit 11 categories, bestseller in Relentless Pursuit of Me. And before we got on, we were talking about what it's like to write our own story and to put it to paper. And it's different than speaking a story. You have time to reflect. What were some of the things going through your mind as you were doing your story for that book? And what was the writing experience like of writing your story?
That is such a good question because I told myself, well, I can tell a story. I can talk about how I grew up. I could talk about, all sorts of things. And they are safer stories for me. But I said, if I am going to do this anthology, this autoethnographic anthology, which basically ties your personal story, your professional story to a larger issue, larger concerns, I have to tell it. And for me, I am known for my voice on the air. People tell me my voice is warm and encouraging. But for me to share the story of how I have hidden my voice, not use my voice for what I wanted, not use my voice to advocate for what I wanted, was very challenging for me. And then the other part is because we're not just telling our story, right? We're telling other people's stories along. May not be the star of the story, but they're part of it as well. Will people figure out who I'm talking about? If I don't mention them specifically, oh, is it this radio station or this TV station? What is going on? But it was so heartfelt to be able to do it. It wasn't easy, but I said, I am committed to doing it. And when the ebook was released, when we hit 11 categories, my youngest sister texted me and she goes, I had no idea. I'm sorry for what you went through. I'm so proud of you for what you were able to accomplish in spite of all that. So that is why we do what we do. And for those who are just hesitant to be part of an anthology or to find ways to tell their story, you'll find a way. You'll find a way to do it and it will be fine. A lot of people, it's a composite or maybe they change the names to protect the innocent. But I think now more than ever, we must have the courage to tell our stories.
My first book that I did last year with Brave Women at Work, I had a moment because of what you're talking about where I got afraid. I had mentioned too specific. I had mentioned certain things in my story that I was worried about because I didn't want the people reading it to have the wrong impression about it. It was about my head injury. I had a massive head injury, and I was very specific about naming what was happening at the time. And I thought, I don't want them to think that this had anything to do with them. It was really just this accident that happened. And I called our publisher the day before the ebook was going out, literally. And I said, I have to pull my chapter. And you can't do that, just so you know. Like you cannot, you cannot edit something. And so she was like, well, no, that's crazy town. What are you talking about? And I said, well, then I have to change it. And so I promised her that I would keep it exactly the number of words, the exact layout, and she literally just took what I did and dropped it in and it went. And it was a trust because we've known each other a long time. I didn't mean to make it so stressful. So I hope if you're listening, I wasn't trying to make it stressful, but I was really relieved and I got sleep that night because I did make that change. And sometimes we have to make those decisions and thinking about everyone, it wasn't anything bad. I just wasn't comfortable with what I had said. So but you go through lots of iterations, and I had gone through lots of iterations. That wasn't the first time I called her. I was like, "I don't know if I should be in this," which is weird because I've written probably 400 blogs or more. Like, I've written a lot. But when you're writing that personal story, it just gets at your soul, doesn't it? It just makes you really dig deep and, do I have the courage? So how did you step into that?
Right. And that was so challenging because again, people have a perception of you. Like they're going like, well, of course you would use your voice. Look at your mouth. You're always saying something. You're always talking. But so I had to trust, and I didn't know who it was going to be. I decided that I could control how much I shared, whether or not I use actual call letters or actual names. I can control that, still be true and honest to what I'm writing about, not fabricate, not make me, I'm always superwoman, no problem. And then when my sister shared what she shared, it was like I knew it would touch someone and somebody who's doing the same thing, going through the same thing. They have this public image, perhaps, or people see them a certain way, but they've been struggling, they've been having a difficult time. When you share, when you tell your story, it helps. And as Marianne Williamson would always say, it automatically gives other people permission to do the same. And that's what I kept remembering. That's why I should tell it. Not to say, oh, Monica, she's been a phony all her life. No, it's like we all go through things and we are always evolving. And I'm still evolving. It's not the end of the story, it was just another section of the story.
When we think about how do we transfer our written word and you being known as a broadcaster, but then also taking the stage. And I just want to share for our listeners, I've never seen anything like this. And I've done thousands of conferences. That was my career. So I have a point of view on this. But coming to Thrive, and you and I had a conversation because I was, wonderfully invited to be on your show. And we were talking, and I don't know if it was during the show or after, but I was like, "Oh, I'm working on my slides." And you said, "Oh, that's great. I don't have any slides." And I thought, okay, that's interesting. You're a keynote speaker and we've got these big monitors, but that's awesome. I mean, you're a three-time Emmy award-winning journalist. You don't need to work on it. It's all good, right? So this is what I'm thinking.
Oh, you probably was like, "What have we done?"
So that day, I had the good fortune to go before you because I would not have wanted to go after you. So I did my thing and I get down and I'm like, okay, good. I'm good now. I got my I did my talk. And then you came on and commanded the stage in such a powerful way with this monologue conversation no one expected. I don't know who you had shared it with, if you had told anyone, if anyone knew that you were gonna do this. It was a one-woman Broadway show. So you say you wanted to be an actress 100%. We're all, like, looking around, and I'm looking at Hope, I'm like, "Oh my," like, mouthing to, like, the team, like, "What is happening right now?" And just watching the audience, and everyone was sitting, forward in their seats, like, they're just absorbing what you were saying and being swept into those stories, and then the standing O at the end, which was a perfect way to end, and then the questions. But what was it like for you to deliver something like that at a conference that no one was expecting?
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity of me being on the stage and you not saying, "Oh no, she can't do this. We'll put her somewhere in the back."
No, I mean, I joked, I'm no joke, I was like, "Thank God I didn't have to go after her because this was like the bar was way up here."
And I even kind of went back and forth. Well, maybe I'll have one slide, maybe I'll have two slides. And then for the tech, I asked about moving the podium. That was like maybe the first signal that people were going like, okay, no, we can't move it. And blah blah blah. I said, okay, I'll be on the floor. Well, no, you're kind of short. It may not look that good. I said, okay, I'll be on the stage, whatever. But I had not done those characters in a while, and I even created a couple new ones based upon what I was picking up, the night before, even what the amazing Shigs had talked about. And I said, again, I'm going to trust that if I am called and led to do these monologues, I'm going to do them. And it was I do not take standing ovations lightly. I know, number one, it takes a lot for people to be so caught up in what you're doing that they cannot help themselves and they rise to their feet. That is gold. So I don't say, well, of course I got a standing ovation. Blah, blah, blah. No, no. I mean, I still kind of get teary thinking about it because it was also a turning point for me. I decided on that stage, then and now, there, I was going to incorporate monologues in every talk I gave. I mean, you all did that for me, and it was so amazing.
The one that I think everyone just can't forget is your conversation about fear. And how did you come up with the idea to put fear on trial? Because that was the magic. How did you come up with that?
I was thinking about fear, and we all look. I'm going like fear for me too. Yes, I will get on television. I will get on the air. Fine, but we all have our moments when fear is just like, who do you think you are, kind of thing. So I was driving, and I started thinking about what does fear feel like, look like, sound like, and I started thinking fear is not huge. Fear is kind of tiny. And at the time, I started thinking because I've covered a lot of trials in New Orleans, like some big ones. The city's all has always had things going on in the city of New Orleans, and I started thinking, well, what if we put fear on trial? What would happen? What would be the verdict? And what would fear say in its own defense? I said, huh, fear would tell the truth, although it'd be a truth humanity would not want to hear. Humanity would not want to hear about its own role in its life, about all of the deferred dreams, all the things that did not happen, how fear has just really grasped them. And they would have to admit. And sometimes when I do it, Natalie, people are looking at me and I'm going, Is there something in my nose or is this not working? It's like they were like, yeah, you're right. I listened to it. I listened to all the people who said this is a crazy idea. And then I blamed fear because I didn't want to blame myself. So we talk about fear, and people identify with it. Some even have spiritual ideas about it. And then one time, and again, I'm always listening, writing things down. I was having a conversation at someone at the radio station in sales, and this person was bemoaning the fact that things are going to change. The sales structure was going to change, everything. They were all upset. And I said, well, this might be a great opportunity to explore other media companies. You're really good at what you're doing. And he said to me, Natalie, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. I said, okay, all right, okay. Let me sit with that for a second. And then I started thinking, he is reacting to change. And again, I'm always looking to feel how change or all these characters show up. So I started thinking, huh, what if we're minding our own business in our house and there's a knock on the door? And when the person on the inside answered, there was change just standing there. And I said, how would I react if I saw change outside my door? And I'm going, oh, I'm screaming and cussing. I'm carrying on. You need to get away from me, door. Get away from my door right now. And that's how it all came about, and how change wanted to have a conversation with the person on the inside to remind the person that this was not the first time change came a knocking, and that you couldn't even keep change out of the house or out of the room or beyond the door, even if you wanted to, because change always finds a way inside anyway. And then what would change tell the person about you can make it through this? It may not always end the way you want it to end, but you're not helpless and hopeless even when I come knocking.
The way that you pull people in, you have such a talent to do that. And I know that you are going to be launching when we release this show, you're going to be launching your amazing course that's coming up. Can you talk about that? Because I think now people see the power of story, they've heard the power of story. What is that 6-month experience like that's launching? I think it's January 12th.
Yeah, the week of January 12th, and it's a 6-month small cohort class where we determine your story to tell. You don't have to act, that's not the requirement. And we work on it. We go through your story inventory. We select one story, you don't toss the others away. And we spend the time writing, refining, getting you to see and feel and understand and embrace the power of your story. So we help you develop it. We work on you to get you to deliver it. You actually get to deliver it as part of your graduation before a studio audience. It's not live, so don't freak out. It's going to be a wonderful, nurturing audience. And part of going through the program and successfully completing the academy, you receive a brilliant blue blazer with Storymaker Academy, so you can always remember the experience. And what has happened this will be our fourth cohort. What has happened, Natalie, is that even the ones who were resistant to even drop their guard and tell a story found that the story was powerful and made the difference in people's lives. And they get so much love. And then I say, you go on and you don't let this be the only thing. Whether they continue to tell that story or not, because now they have a whole inventory, about 40 stories that they could tell. But how do you tell it when you are networking? How do you let people in when you are accepting an award? How do you do your TEDx talk or apply for it? So I have just really come to understand the power. And then the second part, beyond the how to's, is the community that we build. And people say that all the time, but I have witnessed it from cohort number one. We go to each other's speaking events, if possible. We go to each other's webinars or workshops. We don't stop once that graduation takes place. We're in it forever. And I give kudos to Dr. Briscoe and all the others who turned to me and said, what's next? And I'm going, oh, live long and prosper? I don't know. What would you like to do? And they said, no, you cannot get rid of us. And that's how it started. So that is the power of the academy is creating. I don't even know if the word community is a good enough word, but we are in each other's lives, supporting each other forever.
It's an infinity ecosystem that you're creating.
Absolutely.
I love that you're going and supporting each other, and that's really the only way that we can make the stories heard with for other people, but also lift and raise the tide because when we're able to support one another and cheer each other on, it really makes life beautiful. So I think that's amazing.
Well, thank you so much. And I love them all. And at that point, it's not Monica, the founder and the CEO. It's like, hey, we're all in this together. What are you working on? I'll do my best to make it. What are you working on? I'll let someone know. I have one cohort. She's always recommending people to be in the academy.
Amazing. Well, we will have that in our show notes. And if all of her C suite members hear this, they can watch your replay in her C suite. I could talk to you all day. It is mesmerizing. Thank you. I can't get enough. I'm like, oh, is it time to go? I don't want to.
And all the things that you say to uplift people, encourage people. I've kind of been watched some of your shows. And I'm going, wow, we need more voices like Natalie out here.
That's so nice. Thank you. I'm so grateful for you to be here today. Thank you for being on the show, and I can't wait for you to do this launch and see those speakers come out. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for allowing me this wonderful, beautiful moment to be with you and all the people who watch this great show.
Thank you for spending your time with us today. I know you got as much out of this conversation as I did. And if you've been thinking about being a speaker, the first step is to make a plan, whether you are looking to be on stage or just share your story. It takes the art of action to make your goals come true. So take an action today and share this episode if you found it helpful. Keep shining your light bright. The world needs you.